Welcome back, you guys, and I was actually working on a video for the best team fits for Russell Westbrook next year. I was going to talk about the possible fit with Jimmy Butler in Miami, the fit with Blake Griffin in Detroit, and other teams that were rumored as well. But of course, the NBA is going to NBA, and that video is now pointless. The Houston Rockets have traded Chris Paul and a few future first-round picks to Oklahoma City for Russell Westbrook. The jokes are flying on the internet right now. It's been pretty funny, but there are some positives to getting Russell Westbrook as well as some negatives. We're going to go through the good and bad of a Russell Westbrook pairing with James Harden on Houston and give it a grade at the end, so let's do it. I think one of the biggest strengths this Houston team is going to have next year is putting the other team in foul trouble. James Harden and Russell Westbrook are two of the best in the league at getting to the free throw line at the guard position. Harden got to the free throw line 11 times per game last year. Russell Westbrook's free throw shooting is a bit down, but he still got to the line 6 times per game. When you compare them to other backcourts around the league, it's hard to find a more effective duo at getting to the free throw line. You probably have to look at a non-backcourt duo like LeBron and Anthony Davis to really compare. Harden is 6'5" and built like an NFL running back. Westbrook is listed at 6'3", but he's really closer to 6'5". Those are two big guards that many teams don't have the personnel to deal with on defense. Also add in Eric Gordon, who is pretty strong as well, even though he's only 6'3". That's a lot of strength to deal with if you're on defense. I've talked about this before on Twitter. You better have guys ready to defend guards in the West, because at times your starting guards will get into foul trouble and your backups might not have the defense and size to stay with Harden and Westbrook. Remember when Danny Green said that the Sixers gave them more problems than the Bucks did in the playoffs because of their size at every position? I could see other point guards and shooting guards running into those similar problems against Westbrook and Harden. Dealing with two 6'5" guards will be a lot to handle. Now, Houston does plan on slightly adjusting their offense, but at the same time, you are who you are. Houston has had plenty of success running what they run. CP3 is a better outside shooter than Russ, but he was not the downhill attacker that Russ is. Whatever you think of Westbrook and his game at this stage of his career, teams still respect his driving ability. Even when teams are sliding underneath of screens when Westbrook is driving to the rim, they make sure a body is in front of him because he does not hesitate when he's got an inch of space. He is going to the basket, he's either forcing you to foul him or it's 2 points. Having a guy like Westbrook who's respected at getting to the rim is going to be a good thing at times for Houston. Question: when do you really see Harden spotting up for threes anymore? If Houston is going to adjust its offense, having Harden spot up while Russ is getting attention attacking the rim, it might be healthier for the team's offense. Capella now has 2 guys to run pick and rolls with for easy alley-oops. So that's the first positive or good thing about this new Houston team. If you hated watching Harden and the Rockets get to the free throw line these past 5 years, well, guess what? They just added another player who's good at getting to the free throw line, so you'll hate this team even more. Okay, so getting to the first negative of bringing in Russell Westbrook, well, actually 2 negatives since they're kind of intertwined. Over the next 4 years, Russell Westbrook is making $171.2 million, $38 million this upcoming year, $41 million in 2021, $44 million in 2022, and he is up for a $47.1 million player option in 2023 he can opt into. They just went from CP3's bad contract to another possible long-term bad contract in Russell Westbrook. CP3 has 3 years left in his deal, and Westbrook has 4. It looks like Houston believes there's a higher ceiling with those two than what they had with James and Chris. One of the reasons why the Westbrook contract is so dangerous is that he's entering his 30s and the athleticism that he used to dominate over the years is declining. Not only is his athleticism declining, he's had multiple surgeries on his knee. He has had a PRP injection in his knee in 2017. He had a surgery on his knee before the start of this past season, and after the playoff loss to Portland, he had another procedure on his right knee. Russ has played the last 2 playoffs slightly injured. Basically everybody has nagging injuries in the playoffs because of the long regular season, but when it's somebody like Westbrook, whose NBA life relies upon full force attacking to the rim and getting separation from his defender, it's a scary thing when you're looking at his contract and future flexibility of the Houston roster. They don't have those draft picks anymore to make another big trade to adjust around Russ and Harden. I don't like putting this negative talk into the airwaves, but from what we've seen in the past, it's likely that Westbrook has another surgery on his knee in the next 2 to 3 years. Houston's timeline with a diminished Westbrook next to James Harden taking 25 shots per game could get pretty dark. We just watched Harden have to carry a declining CP3 at times during the year, and there's a timeline where James Harden has to do it again because Westbrook can no longer get separation due to his injuries and natural decline. Not many players are worth $40 million per year, especially one that's entering his 30s with multiple surgeries on his knee. If things go really bad, they at least have Harden and Capella, who will be tradable. So that's the first negative. Westbrook's contract and decline as a player could end this era in ugly fashion. It was just reported that James was a driving force in this trade for Russell Westbrook. Even though there's major questions about the fit because they both like to dominate the ball, it seems like Harden and Russ are more on the same page from an off-the-court standpoint. They've known each other since they were kids growing up in California, they played together in OKC, and have much respect for each other. The CP3 and Harden duo was amazing their first year together on the court, but clearly they had issues that made Houston make a trade. So the positive here is that they like each other. Having players that like each other the same after a win and after a loss is a good thing. Like I've said, they've known each other for 20 years, so I have a hard time seeing them having problems like CP3 and James did. I'm here for the jokes, but I never got the vibe that Westbrook is this bad teammate. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've never read a report about Westbrook having some infighting with his teammates. Seems like everybody has liked playing with him. I mean, look at Terrence Ferguson and Jeremy Grant's development this year as shooters. A lot of that came from Russ's drive and kick game. Russ should fit in just fine. And that right there is a nice transition into the next positive, and that's three-point shooting. This will be the best three-point shooting team Westbrook has played on in years. There will be times this upcoming season where Russ will be playing next to James Harden, Eric Gordon, and PJ Tucker. All of those guys are respected three-point shooters. This means more space for Russ's rim attacking game, whether that is a right-hand layup over the top of a big man or a kick out to PJ Tucker in the corner. The Oklahoma City Thunder, after Kevin Durant left them, struggled with three-point shooting and spacing. Teams did not have to respect their outside shooting. Because Russell Westbrook isn't the same rim attacker he was 5 years ago, he has adjusted by kicking the ball out more. The problem was that OKC was not built to be a drive and kick team, so Westbrook was kicking it out to guys that weren't respected shooters. I've talked about this before on my channel before the playoffs started. I couldn't trust this OKC team going into the playoffs because of their three-point shooting weakness. But it won't be a weakness for him going into next year. Westbrook is going to a team that is built for the drive and kick game. Before, Russell Westbrook was kicking it out to Raymond Felton. Now Westbrook will be kicking it out to respected shooters like Harden, Gordon, Tucker, and Austin Rivers. That is a much healthier situation for Russ going forward. So the positives here are Houston has two stars that like each other, and they have more spacing for Westbrook's drive and kick game. So for the final negatives, there will be 3 of them I will discuss, and that is turnovers, three-point shooting, and crunch time chemistry. We just talked about the positives of the three-point shooting, but there are some negatives as well. Quick question for you guys. Can you name the 5 players that have produced the most turnovers in a single NBA season? Trick question. 2 players take up the top 5. The 2 NBA players who have the 5 worst turnover seasons in NBA history are James Harden and Russell Westbrook. And that's just from the past 4 seasons. In the playoffs, decision-making and passing the ball accurately is what can make or break some teams. The Warriors, for as unbeatable as they've been the past 5 years, they would lose games because they were careless with the ball. I can already see a situation in the playoffs against the Clippers or the Jazz where both of them are taken out of the game because they aren't taking care of the ball. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and the entire Clippers defense have the scary combination of defensive IQ and talent. The Utah Jazz are going to have 5 smart defenders on the court almost all the time. I can already picture it now. There's going to be a lot of games where James and Russ are just turning the ball over. Moving into the next negative, I just talked about how Russ should do better with more spacing, but at the same time, he's going to be taking some bad threes. Russ was really bad at making threes last year. He took 6 threes per game and made less than 30% of them. And in Houston's system, which is free for players that jack up threes, you can already picture the games where Westbrook is shooting really bad from 3. Russ really needs to cut his three-point attempts in half this upcoming year. And finally, the last negative, what about when it's 97-99 with 5 minutes left in the game? Who's running pick and rolls and who's playing off the ball? What made the Russ and Paul George duo good was that Paul George could run off screens and take three-point shots. PG could play off the ball. What made the CP3 and Harden duo so good is that Chris was a respected three-point shooter and could play off the ball next to Harden. Russ and Harden are who they are. They like to play with the ball. What's going to happen when James is doing his dribble stuff at the top for 2 minutes straight? Because that's just the best play at the time. Harden is on fire, and his defender can't stop him. Is Russ cool with standing in the corner for possession on top of possession? Like I said earlier, I don't think there's going to be a clash between the two, but this is a situation Russ and Harden haven't been in before. Both of them are best with the ball, and James is just better at the stuff Russ does well, so we'll have to see what happens. So those are the last 3 weaknesses: turnovers, Russ's shooting, and late game chemistry. I've seen some people mention the defense as a weakness. I don't think it's going to be substantially worse than last year. They still got Tucker, they still got Capella, they still got Eric Gordon, who will be fine. Rivers is okay too. But there are a lot of ways this could get dark. Westbrook's knee needs to stay healthy, or this could get bad with those draft picks being traded away. I give this pairing a B+. I think some people are way too down on this duo. It might not be as good as CP3 and Harden in 2018, but this should be a 52 to 55 win team, which is a very good spot to be in the Western Conference. I did make a video about the history between James Harden and Russell Westbrook about a year ago, so check that out. It will be in the outro of this video. I appreciate you guys for making it to the end. Let me know how you'd grade out this duo, and I'll see you guys soon.